And I just, I figured if I could do a little bit of each one of them, I could keep myself in balance. It's kind of a crazy making thing for me, having all of these different things I do, because they're like little people in my head that get upset when they get ignored.
Peggy taught us all about the fever. Ella told us about those satin dolls. I'm gonna tell you about my lover man when the night time falls. Sippy warned us not to tell our secrets, lest she come and steal away your man. Loretta said that kind's a dime a dozen, and you ain't woman enough to steal my man. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Bonnie played what it can sound like. Katie showed another way too. But my man shows me the ins and the outs with all of those good things he really can do. Woo, 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 woo. Bad girls, whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, 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 woo. Ba-da-ba-da-bee-ya, dee-ya-doo-dee-ya-dum. Ba-da-ba-da-dum, ba-dum. Ba-da-da-bum, ba-dee-ya-da-dee, dee-ya, dee-ya-doo, dee-ya-da-dum. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba, dee-ya, dee-ya, dee. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba, dee-ya, dee. Julie showed us how to cry a river. Tammy said to stand by your man. But thinking how he makes my body quiver, I'll lay down with him whenever I can. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. He gives me fever in the morning, fever when he holds me tight. Fever, woo, when he kisses. Fever all through the night.
Well, hello, Chappell. Thanks for coming.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for having me here.
So we're going to talk about mating your music with your family, which is not always an easy thing. And like me, you've got a daughter. And when your daughter's really little, you don't necessarily take her to the clubs because
right.
she doesn't want beer spilled on her tiny little head.
Right.
How did that affect your burgeoning music career when you were starting that phase?
Well, it was a problem. I'll have to say that. When I was 36 when I got pregnant, and that was a shock.
And that's a prime period when you're pushing it out.
Yeah, and so we had to make this big decision about how we were going to handle this, and we decided at that time Dave wanted to go back to college and finish his degrees, so he got his BA and his master's in creative writing, and I stayed home being sort of live-in artist, taking care of the baby. And as a painter, it gave me an opportunity to actually create a body of work while she was little.
And then she kind of painted alongside
Yeah,
you when she
yeah.
got older. Yeah.
Yeah, and then as she grew up, it came out of her as well. So we would sit and draw and paint side by side and have a whole load of fun. And
But you were doing music before you had your daughter.
oh yes,
Yeah,
oh
and
yeah,
you had a full thing going
Yeah.
on, and you needed to be pushing out the music into more venues, and suddenly you have to kind of
right,
clamp it back.
right. And Dave, my husband, is being a musician, and we had been playing together. It was a divergence for both of us.
Right.
So. Yeah, it was kind of weird, but I would pick up things from time to time. I remember I did an Earth Day at the Concord Pavilion, and
Right.
we would do small things kind of along the way, but we weren't going out and really looking for work out in nightclubs and like
Yeah, you're
that.
scaling back.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
back while the kid is really young.
Yeah.
At what age? Well, actually, I want to point out first that you were lucky in that your husband was part of the band.
Right, right,
You two were the band.
right. I didn't have to go out and look for a piano player.
No, and you didn't have to, didn't have him stamping his foot at home waiting, when's
That's
she going to
right.
get back from the gig?
Yeah, or the other way around. So,
Yeah.
and then in 1996, we decided, we had a body of work of music, and we had both been managing to write a few songs, and we decided to make a CD. So, which we did.
And you can do that with the kid in the
Yeah,
house.
yeah. But that was all pre-internet, and so we didn't really have a way to promote it. And since we weren't out really working a lot, we kind of made this CD that only a few people heard.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until later, with the internet, that we were able to kind of make that thing happen.
Well, did you feel guilty for not doing the music, or later on did you feel guilty for abandoning your daughter while you went out and did gigs?
I try to avoid guilt.
That's a good answer.
kind of make it work. I when she was old enough that that she could handle it, or she could stay home alone, we could go out and do gigs, and it was no problem. And
What age did that finally turn?
I think when she was maybe 5th and 6th grade, or she could go to a girlfriend's house or
Yeah.
something like that. So. Yeah, that wasn't really a problem. But the biggest problem is that you sacrifice this chunk of years. And, you actually hear this a lot with, actresses and whatnot, where you make this decision. Ruth Brown, the famous blues singer, same thing, pulled out of the business while she had her family. And you come back later on, and it's like you're swimming upstream trying to catch up. So.
Well, plus those years when your kid is small, those are prime years for whatever you're going to be doing.
That's right.
And I know for me, you can't do a job, be a fully engaged parent, and do a full-on music thing at the same time. It's
That's
like there's
right.
is it true that there's only room for one or two of those at once?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I've always tried to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So, I've tried to maintain my art and my music. I'm a professional seamstress. I do vintage clothing restoration. I make money that way,
Right.
So, and I was in art shows, and I just, I figured if I could do a little bit of each one of them, I could keep myself in balance. It's kind of a crazy making thing for me, having all of these different things I do, because they're like little people in my head that get upset when they get ignored, and so
That's the thing. They demand time.
they demand time.
And it demands effort. And even if you're really fast at doing what
yeah,
you do,
yeah.
if you're going to go play a gig, that's several hours.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or
And then you got to
not.
rehearse, and you've got all the other stuff
Yeah.
you have to do. But I did things like I worked in theater for a little while in the costume shop at the Regional Center for the Arts in Walnut Creek, and so she would come into the shop with me, and she met all of the designers and actors, and that was really fun for her. And I always tried to bring her into whatever I was doing, so that she could experience.
Did she like that?
Oh, she did. Yeah, she
Really?
loved it. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
good.
She makes hats now. She's
No,
yeah.
really. Nice.
Yeah, yeah. She works for Acoustic Guitar Magazine as a copywriter. So
That's a great magazine.
Yeah.
That's a great gig.
yeah, so she's done pretty well.
No, did you pull her on stage to sing and
Nope.
perform, or
Nope, never
pull
did
the
that.
curtain?
Never did that. she actually didn't want to play music. We really tried to encourage her. And what she would do is she would decide she wanted to learn, what was that? The theme song to Cats, Memory.
Yeah.
Memory, da, 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 da. And so she had Dave teach her how to play it. And she sat and she practiced until she could play it and sing it, and that was it.
That's it? That's all
After
she knows
that,
on
she
the
was
piano?
just fine with that.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's very
but,
directed.
she absorbed music and music that she loves, and so she's good to go. Her boyfriend is a musician, so.
Well, we were talking a little earlier about how when she was small, you tried to get her inculcated into what you thought was the right kind of music, right kind of art, right kind of inclination.
Right. Well, this gets into philosophy, personal philosophy, and for me and Dave, we feel like popular culture has become an all-engrossing, gobbling monster that wants to, take over everything. And I wanted my child to be able to find her own authenticity. Mm-hmm. And so I felt the best way to do that was when she was little, to just introduce her to all what I think is the best of music. So, whether it's Gene Ritchie playing Appalachian dulcimer or Charlie Parker wailing on the hippest sax stuff, she heard it all, and she grew up on wonderful movies, Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant, and all of that beautiful old stuff. And it's because I knew that once she was 5 and went into school, she was going to be exposed to everything. So I felt like it allowed her to really become herself, and it has actually worked.
Gave her a grounding. Because I'm sure when she got old enough to go off to school, then she got into whatever was common thing
Then
at
it's
the
the
time.
Spice Girls and all of
Right.
whatever was going on. And now she has this totally broad. She and her boyfriend have a record collection, a record collection, and they just listen to everything. So I feel like it worked.
That's pretty nice.
At least it worked with her. I didn't have anybody else to compare it to. But
Well, did she like coming to your shows, or did she tug on you to not go?
we did. It kind of depends, really. She went to some. She still comes to some now, but she's got her own life, and
Plus, you hear mom and dad sing the same
That's
song
right.
2 times.
right.
Goes
right.
a long way. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about other people you play with? How does the family dynamic work with that? How much do you have to acknowledge or respect that, or is it just something that doesn't come
You
up?
mean with other people's families?
Yeah, when you want other people to come play with you, and they have families, they have obligations.
Well, sometimes it's inconvenient, but you have to respect it. I mean, if you want somebody to do a gig with you, and Johnny's graduating, there you go.
Well, it's more like, and Johnny wants you home just to be home.
Yeah.
That seems to be the tougher thing.
But everybody's so busy, you really have to just learn to flow with it. And Dave and I are, even myself, if I want to work solo, I can do that. But, we're always able to go out and do our thing, whether we have somebody else with us or not. So if they can't make it, we'll do it without you.
Did you have a lot of babysitters when
No.
the kid was younger?
Hardly any.
Who'd you leave your daughter with when you go off to play a night date?
We had a couple of friends, women friends that were interested, but
Were they musicians too?
actually mostly we didn't have many babysitters. We were pretty much she was either with us or we were with her.
Yeah.
So didn't do a lot of that actually.
Can you have a full music career and have a family?
Probably you can if you're making good money. But even, I hear people talk about it who are in the money, and it's difficult.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too.
Especially touring. I mean, I have heard about people that take their families with them on tour.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
But you have to have enough money to do that. So.
Yeah, and I took my daughter on a tour with me once, and we had a good time. But there was definitely, I felt a little guilty. I was dragging her into my whole world
Yeah.
and confining
How
her
old
to that
was
for
she?
weeks. Oh, she was 17 at the time. And she, it's most musicians, at least in the community level that, you know, that you hear more of, are not making millions. You know, and it's you have to have a day job.
Yeah, most of us are making tens.
Yeah.
Tens of tens.
And you're doing another job
Yeah,
that pays the
that's
rent.
right.
And if you're lucky, you really like that job too.
Yeah.
Which is also a competing interest
Right.
for doing your music.
Yeah. Well, I am really lucky. I've had this very checkered career with all these different things that I do, and I fell into this job, if you will, in San Francisco, where I work with a woman who owns this big vintage store, antiques and. Well, and I, over the years, you know, I've done furniture and I've done all this other stuff. And so I'm now working in a place where I'll be doing anything. I can be doing fine beadwork on a 1920s dress, or I can be refinishing an antique piece of furniture, or I've done restoration of paintings. And so it's kind of crazy.
Is that enough for you, or do you also have to play and sing and songwrite?
Oh, I have to do that.
I kind of thought
Yeah.
so.
In fact, that is my job, you know. And jobs are always jobs, but I'm just lucky that I'm kind of like the artist in residence. Like, whoopee, I get to do all this neat stuff.
Hey, yeah, how much does your painting compete with your music?
Well, these days I don't have a lot of time to do any new paintings, but what I've done over the years is I've photographed everything, and so I've got everything. Almost all of my paintings are available in prints and cards, and you can go to my website, my Etsy site,
And they're pretty cool.
and they're pretty cool. And I've got some in a gallery up in Occidental, and and they sell a lot, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah, yeah. Now that your daughter's fully adult and launched and out, how much does she drag on your music interests, or does she contribute, or is it neutral?
I would say it's neutral. I mean, you know, she sometimes will come and do the door at a show, or you know, and her boyfriend, who's a musician, as I said, he loves our music, and so, you know, they'll come when they can, and but no, there's no good or bad there. It's just.
Can you put him in the band, the boyfriend?
Not really.
It's a
We
different
tried. He doesn't really. He's not comfortable doing the kind of jamming that we do, and so, so he has a band that they write together and kind of write and record. And
Well, you're lucky the husband was playing the same kind of music. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
what if your daughter had become a some kind of musician who was totally different from what you and Dave do?
Well, that would have been fine. That would have been good.
Then she could have gone off and toured on her own.
Yeah, that's right. But as it was, one time, one of her friends said, "You know, why aren't you singing with your mom and dad?" And she said, "Well, why should I sing when my mom sings?"
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah, there's that kind of dynamic in there somewhere. So, but if she had really wanted to sing, she would have. It would have been a good thing. So.
I would have folded it in.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thanks for coming. I appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you for having me.
All right.
I'm moving to Mars. Yeah, I think I'd like to try me out a life in the stars. My friends all say I need a place to wear out my heart, so I'm moving to Mars. You know, this life has been crazy. Sometimes I think I'm not really here. Every time I turn around, another friend is going down, and I can't see her face for the tears. So